Thanks.
All right, so we're ready to.
We're ready to say, all right, everyone, welcome back. Welcome to the September 15th, 2025 meeting of the Housing and Homelessness Committee. My name is Alec Militic, and I am the chair of the committee. Tonight, we are joined by Community Coordinator Brian Lafferty. This meeting is called to order at 6:36 p.m. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend this meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, looks like there may be two. You can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature on Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, you can raise any question that you have by raising your hand. If there is time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. We need a volunteer to take minutes tonight. Do I have any volunteers? Maybe one of the new.
Well, everything will be.
Everything is recorded. Okay, thank you.
When do I have to have it done?
Open meetings. That's an interesting question.
That is a
We used to
very-
have it basically a week before, and there's some sort of debate about, what it used to be.
It may be 2 weeks from today.
Oh,
Okay,
that's fine. I can do that.
thank you.
It'll be uploaded by tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
The YouTube recording, and then we'll send it to you and you can use that to transcribe.
Okay.
Thank you. We will now take attendance by roll call. Brian will conduct the roll call.
Thanks, Alex. Committee members, when I call your name, please say pledge. Kyle Thye. No. Kyle. Eric Goldberg, present. Thank you. Sandra Leptoff.
Here.
Thank you. Alec Militet.
Present.
Thank you. Rich Mintz. We don't see Rich. James Vera. Here. Thank you. Jerry Weinstein. Here. Thank you. Will Perry. Thank you. David Woods. Celia Zal. Celia. Liz Bird.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, with 7 of 11 members present, we have a quorum.
Great, thanks. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time before office and is reflected on the screen before you. Okay. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the June 16th, 2025 meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. Being no objections, the minutes from the June 16th, 2025 meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. Now we're going to establish some ground rules. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe the following ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I will identify you so you can speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I will identify you so you can speak. All committee members, it is extremely important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. The chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information such as an email that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. So with that, we can hop into tonight's agenda. So the first agenda item is there has been a bit of a reshuffling at the committee, and we have a few new members. I'd like our new members, as well as our returning members, to just introduce ourselves, our interests in housing, I got involved in housing, our backgrounds, and sort of anything interesting and important that you might want to contribute to this committee. I'll go first, and then we'll go to my right. So my name is Alec. My background is in urban planning. I've been an urban planner for the last 6 or so years. My background is in planning consulting, so I worked with diverse project teams to rezone parts of the city and receive funding for different housing developments, help the city introduce hundreds, thousands of new housing units to the city. Now I currently work for the city, actually as a planner. I work at New York City EDC. And I believe that everyone should have a right to a safe, affordable, and secure home. And I think that's kind of my mission as a planner, as a housing advocate, to ensure that people have the right to a safe, secure, and effective home. So,
Can I ask you a question?
sure.
What's the EC?
EDC stands for Economic Development Corporation.
Okay, I didn't hear the thing, but I didn't know it anyhow, thank you.
Yes. And for those wondering, it is not a conflict. I went through it with the board and with EDC, and it is okay as long as I disclose before discussions that my employer is in fact EDC, so. Moving on.
Will Perry, joined the community board in this last round, so I guess June, May, somewhere. My whole career has essentially been in real estate, but real estate finance mostly. So I started in housing policy actually, in DC, focusing on housing finance issues, and then went into commercial real estate, was a real estate banker. Went and did mortgages at JP Morgan. That's what brought me to New York City. And then now I run a single family rental owner operator. We're in 13 states. So yeah, housing has been my career for the past 12 years. My passion too. And yeah.
And can I ask one more question? What you said the very last thing was a single family.
Single family rental
Well, yeah, what is that?
owner operator. So we own homes all over the country or across the east. And we own them and then rent them out to people.
So you own a single family home?
Yeah.
And then you rent it out? Oh, I see. And all over the country?
11 states or 13 states.
And a lot in the city and in New York?
Actually none in New York City. All over the East Coast except for New York.
You got a thing about New York? No, it's okay.
It's a little complicated to operate in New York.
Okay, thank you.
I'm James. I'm an architect. I've been practicing for about 30 years now, lived in the neighborhood about a little over 20 years, and done projects of all sizes and types. So really just focus on the general built environment.
Hi, Eric Goldberg. I guess my interest in housing and homelessness is just as a tenant here in New York City. I feel like we need a lot more housing, and often in these forms, it seems like there's an aversion to building more housing and often and always finding issues and problems with why we can't have it from the people who live here. So, that's it. I'm here because I think we need more housing and need to push for it.
Brian Lafferty, I'm the community coordinator with CB6.
Tell us more. How many years?
A couple years.
You never hear from me, so.
Brian's great, and he's very, if anybody on the committee has any questions, please, Brian's the guy.
And Brian also is an incredible researcher when you need something researched.
Yeah, he
I
is.
so
Yeah.
respect what you've done.
Well, thank you.
And very patient.
He's a big asset to this committee.
Sandra, did you?
Oh, okay, sure. Sandra left off, I've been on the committee, actually a number of years. My interest, my interests are both very personal and academic. I am a faculty member of John Jay College, which is CUNY, and I run a housing internship, which basically enables our students to be placed in various organizations working on issues of housing, both in government and not-for-profits primarily. So they're working on tenant advocacy and agendas, but also learning how to develop advocacy within the government and within government structures. A lot of these students both live the difficulties of life in New York in terms of housing, but also very much want to be part of the solution, which is terrific. Our organization, the organizations and the government agencies do wonders with these kids. I come from the personal, this didn't start off, that's not my field is psychology, but whatever. But I've lived in this city many, many years, and my husband and I have been rent stabilized tenants for many years. And so as the city has changed, and as the development of basically private homes within within housing, we have gotten caught up very much in the politics of housing and the struggles that rent stabilized, et cetera, people have done. So all of those issues have really motivated me to want to have a voice in.
What Sandra said is applicable with me as far as it's a hybrid of both informed by personal and then caring about the welfare of our millions of neighbors. I grew up here in the Bronx, Manhattan, and I've been in my same building for 23 years. And we've been litigating against, now it's just me, I'm the only surviving stabilized tenant since 2004. It's fun. I'm also on the board of something called Stonewall Community Development Corporation, and we create housing for elder LGBTQ folks and provide programming. We just had an event last week, and we've housed about 1,800 people who were formerly homeless. We have a contract with NYCHA, apart from everything else. And so, you know, my lens is definitely informed by the fact that I think that, I don't know your experience, but my personal experience was that living in a tenement that is 6 units and incorrectly classed as 4 and 2, but that's another story, that it flies under the radar. That the system that is served, the inspectors and so forth, are not equipped. They're there to focus on larger buildings from a point of priority, and 1s and 2s often can't, like it took me 3 or 4 years to get an inspection when we were suing years ago. In any case, so I am very interested because I've gone through the pieces of like, how do we bring things up to a point of fairness? One single example is that you may know that a few years ago, it was voted into law that tenants have legal representation. Semicolon. It's only 40% funded. So that belies the fact that, you know, de jure, people are entitled, but then it's almost like a lottery or about resilience and tenacity. So I'll pass and I'm Jerry.
Hi everyone, I'm Liz. I joined the board back in May. And my interest in this committee is also from a tenant's perspective. I've lived in our district for 16 years, actually in the same unit, because I have a very gracious landlord It's not rent stabilized, but it probably would be considered very similar. Which I really appreciate, but I, also have another passion or of concern, which is homelessness, and I understand that if we can just get better affordable housing, we can definitely impact our homeless population. So yeah, that's my two on it.
Great, thank you. So I'm looking forward to collaborating with everyone, on this committee.
Public person?
No, these are members of the public.
Oh, but he's a public member, so that's a different
No,
category.
He's not.
No?
He's just a member of the public.
No, he's a public member, that's different. A public?
He's not a
Right.
public, he's not.
Wait, no, no,
Oh,
no,
I'm sorry.
I must have also
He
mistakenly
said-
said
he
you,
said
sorry.
it. You set me up. No,
Of course not.
I really appreciate your sharing all this, which is very helpful. I'm wondering if we could quickly say something that you would really be interested in getting involved in here in a committee.
You're kind of jumping ahead to the second agenda item, Sandra,
Okay,
but
fine.
to Sandra's point,
I'm sorry.
we've been working on a housing survey study for the last year. That isn't taking a back seat. I just want to make that clear. We're still working on that. We're trying to collaborate with other committees. But that's taken up a large, or not other committees, excuse me, other community boards. But that's taken up a large topic of discussion. But Sandra and I were talking recently, and we kind of want to open up the future discussions that we have this fall and winter to the interests of all of you. And so as we've been working on this housing study that Brian has up, there are a couple of different topics that we wanted to explore as part of this, but we also want to open it up to see if there's anything else that you as members of the committee would like to discuss going forward. That could mean we bring in speakers that are akin to your interests, right? We bring in maybe some organization or some city agency that could teach us about a topic of interest that might be of importance to us. It can relate to housing, it can relate to homelessness, it can relate to things that we have included here or other topics that we'd like going forward. So I'll open it up to the floor if there's anything as a committee or as an individual that you'd really like us to focus on. Feel free to, yeah, of course.
Well,
Sure.
just say, over the summer, I did have a get together with Joel Stillman, who's the executive director for Just Fix.
Mhm.
And he and or staff is happy to do as you suggest, which is kind of take their generic trainings, but really tailor it, whether or not it's the housing study
Mhm.
or us wondering what our community board district needs specifically. For example, we have a real lack of elder housing and co-housing.
Sure.
You know, is that something that they could help us think about? You know, or even with Will's background, like, how can we think about from the financing point of view, since
Mhm.
that's an area that doesn't really, category that doesn't exist in
Mhm.
CP6.
Mhm. That's great. You said it's Just Fix. What was?
Yeah, Just
Joel?
Fix and Jill Stillman.
Great. I personally like it when people come to committees and give presentations or discussions, so I'm partial to an organization like Just Fix. Doing so. Does anybody else have any interest that yeah, James?
Just touching back to some things we talked about maybe last year. It's a bit of a blur for me these days. But in terms of homelessness in particular and how these sheltered people, but that's only part of the, that's part of the solution.
Mhm.
With people who are coming here, immigrants, or, who aren't allowed to work.
Mhm.
So what do you do with your day? You have a place to sleep, but then what do you do with your day? And so they're just kind of outside or taking jobs that are not technically legal. And
Like
And-
gig work economy kind of thing?
yeah,
Okay.
and so it just kind of starts to paint a bad picture, put them in a bad light, which isn't necessarily where they should be, or you certainly shouldn't be there. There should be opportunities then to contribute to work, to make an impact in a positive
Yeah,
way.
that's great.
Do you have any organization in mind?
I do not.
I do some work with Documented, and they're a news platform that's focused on immigration.
Mhm.
And they reach out and co-publish in English, Mandarin, Creole, and Spanish. And they do events. Their CSO was at my event last week. I mean, that's folks I could get. We just have to kind of figure, would we want something speaking to what's happening
Mhm.
and or what we'd like to see as, so
It's a
insofar as
policy
safety, and legally. And how does this inform even the last 7 weeks of the mayoral campaign,
Right.
I think.
Sandra?
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in issues of affordability within the community or within the city, which is why we want to hook up with other community board housing committees so that we really have a voice, a larger voice in the community board to address issues of affordability. I'm just gonna bring up the city of Yes Housing because
Mhm.
we certainly were dealing with that and that was last spring, but City of Yes Housing was something that Adams was really pushing. One of the issues in the development of housing, which is a tremendous need, is the focus not necessarily on affordability. And, that's a major problem in all the communities across the city. And so what I certainly am very concerned about is focusing on the development of truly affordable housing for individuals and families. And in development of housing, which is relevant for the sort of, the diverse culture that exists in the city. I'll only mention that certainly the development of housing now, if you look at floor space, is not set up for families. It's really set up for individuals and couples, or, you got one kid, you want to put them in a small room. But in terms of what the nature of life in the city is, we're only touching a very small part of it. And I would like to see us think about really deal with, and hopefully as we connect with other community boards, be a real voice for the development of housing, which meets the needs of the renters of the city, right? And the people who have needs for livable housing. So that's what I know I'm going.
Just to tag on to that,
Yeah.
there's also there's that perspective, and there's also let's say the perspective of the developer. New York is a very highly regulated city. And the costs of doing any even modest project have just grown astronomically over the years. And I've seen it. And so, it's easy to vilify some people for charging a lot once the building's done, but it costs so much money to do anything in this town that it's hard not to charge certain amounts. That seems still egregious.
Mhm.
I'm only going to say, because I was a very strong witness of that. The 421 program virtually handed the developer the money back they put into the development of the buildings, but I don't want to get into that right now.
And I'm not arguing anything like that. I'm just saying, just from a factual standpoint, it is.
I get it, it's very expensive. Okay,
I'd be interested in working on what tools this committee has. To, pull the levers that it has to pull, so
Mhm.
I think that some of that maybe is like. Somewhat in the study or attempted to do that in the study, but, almost similar to how we got brought on as new board members, we were kind of introduced to like, this is the community board and these are the tools that the community board has at its disposal. I'd be really interested in trying to build more of like a platform for this committee to understand what tools specifically related to housing does it have at its disposal.
Mhm.
I think that kind of goes across all of the different topics.
Sure.
So it's like, but if, talking about homelessness in some way, it's like, okay, well, then what are the actual things that we can do?
Right.
Or in what ways can we do it?
Right.
Is kind of what
I'm noticing a lot of overlap between some of the things that we want to explore, right? Like there's the tools for understanding housing that ties in with Just Fix, right? Because they can synthesize data and digest it and make it.
Yeah, and they offer, as you're saying, they have ready-made tools so that you can fill in information, it will generate a complaint and it will mail it to, snail mail to somebody, and it will keep a record.
Sure.
And a lot of things which often inhibit people from taking action, like a lot of I've been in civic tech for over 10 years, it is minimizing the sort of, the cognitive tension between acting. I'm even thinking about how often we have our electeds and agencies come when they want something, but how it would be really good whether or not it's Kristen Gonzalez's person in housing and various other, whether it's assembly, state senator,
Sure.
to get them rotating, to share their perspective about what are the needs, what is their
Housing
office
policy,
been
maybe.
trying
That'd be really
to do.
interesting. I'd really like to ask them to make a presentation to us about how we can help them with their housing policy objectives.
Yeah.
I sort of, I have to say, it'll be important, I love the point, the notion of the platform in which, what are our voices, right? Where do we actually have a voice in this, we often are responding to, but the idea, I would love a speaker who can really help us understand where our power is in this, as opposed to the respondents. I wouldn't know who, but it would be,
Right.
it would be really terrific.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the board in their capacity will have to help us get in
Yeah.
contact with electeds or maybe some other city agencies and whatnot to try to get speakers here. But I think that that's a really great idea to have an elected official or maybe one of their representatives come and discuss housing policy and how we can best serve them and sort of serve each other, right? Because that's kind of what we're here to do, is it's a symbiotic relationship. And
It's also how, not just how we can serve them, but how they can serve us.
Can serve,
So
right.
It's not all directed at,
Sure.
we are merely,
To work in tandem to achieve our housing goals,
think that.
right?
Well, and I could also think that it might be of interest to take someone who successfully has maneuvered a project like Eric Botcher in Chelsea, when their casino project fell apart, they were ready with related to push for affordable housing, and there were thousands of units.
Sure.
I'd like him to share how he, prepared for that, whether or not it might even be a staff person,
Right.
or Mark Levine's interest in converting former, offices like Pfizer into affordable housing. If they actually have a map in Manhattan of future places as he's handing the reins probably to Brad.
Right.
Will be the outgoing in the last few months,
Sure.
but he's been working on this. And I would hope that we would be part, as they're doing a transition, that piece where there's a lot of real estate and finding thousands at Grand Central, it's strangely innovative, even though it's so obvious
Sure.
that they're gonna, people used to always say, oh, too hard, and they're managing.
Great point. Any other topics?
Would only say, if I may,
Of course.
to, if we have this list we aggregate, that if anyone has a lead, a contact, that we kind of add that.
Yeah.
Because I do know a few people at Mark's office.
And I think what I'll do, or probably what I'll ask Brian to do after this meeting sometime this week or maybe even next week. I'll type up a kind of a list, a high level list of all the topics that we discussed tonight. Share it out with the committee. And if there's any interest or any connections that people have in trying to pursue that issue, I think we should go for it. Because you have connections that I might not have, and I might have connections that, so.
Well,
there's-
your EDC connections will really be, important for some of the stuff, because they have led many projects.
Sure.
Even now, what will the housing component be of Spark?
Well, I think in my capacity as EDC, I'd have to.
Recuse? But you could, you could kick the ball so far and then recuse.
I mean, but there are definitely, I think, avenues in which we as a committee can get in contact with city agents.
Well, we just had
right?
EDC sent two people who were running ferry. And they did a great 45-minute
Right.
presentation, discussion, more than you ever thought you'd know.
I bet,
It's terrific.
I don't even know that stuff myself, to be honest with you. But there are other agencies like HPD, which administers a lot of affordable housing, or city planning with City of Yes. That I think. we can
Also,
work
and I would be
resources.
interested in what other people at the table think. I was also thinking, the open data system, so that we understand how we might gain
Yeah.
access, but I think it's always a little confusing. Get the speakers before we sort of have an idea of what.
It's a,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
chicken and egg.
Yeah.
And
I
maybe
do know
so
Nell
I
well.
love the
This
notion
big
of
NYC
starting
stuff.
with the HPV and maybe starting going into organizations and then sort of work, you're right, it's chicken egg, and then work back to, you know what, this would be like to really focus on at least for the next number of months.
And I think that the first part of this is to come up with a list of topics, right? Which I wrote down here, but I'll share it out because we don't want to double book people, right? We don't want to bring in people that are gonna talk about the same thing 2 consecutive months.
Yeah.
So I think the first step here is to synthesize all of this information. And then we can go from there and see if there's overlap between homelessness and HPD, for example, or, you know, data tools that we have with elected officials and other things like that. But I think that this is a great start, and I think with this, we'll be able to have a lot of great conversations this fall and this winter with a lot of great speakers and a lot of electeds and.
And just one more thing.
Yeah, of course.
When you mentioned city planning and City of Yes, you know, I was following it in its inception,
Mhm.
but once everything got passed, I tried watching the hearings and then, you know, they were very long.
Sure.
I'm not 100% sure what the final thing is, you know, so.
Yeah.
Because it covers all sorts of different types of development, so.
Understandable.
But it would be great to have somebody from, you know,
No, city planning.
City
of course,
planning,
is-
thank you.
is, yeah.
to kind of bullet point how certain aspects that relate to housing specifically.
Yeah, that's a good point. Great. I think this is a great start. We have a lot of great items here that we can go with.
I have a question.
Of course,
What's the goal for completing this?
that is a fantastic.
What is the goal for completing this, like the due date?
So for the housing survey that we started, so it originally
Great question.
bore out of kind of a desire, I think Sandra mostly led this, to kind of get a better understanding of really complex affordable housing issues or the housing topics that aren't as easily publicly available. And in order to understand the different kinds of affordable housing that we have in the district, right? There's a lot of different kinds of affordable housing and a lot of ways in which that affordable housing is subsidized or paid for. And so it kind of started that way, and then it grew into a much bigger thing where we wanted this to be a collaborative study with other community boards, right? And I can give, I guess, an update about the conversations that we had over the summer. So Sandra, Sandy and I, this past summer, we met with, it was 7 community
Yeah,
boards,
the
7.
Right, and we want to, and then we want to meet with, one in East Harlem, block. 11.
11. Yeah, so we met with 7 over the summer and they demonstrated an interest in
They were.
working
Yeah.
together with us on this. Unfortunately, we couldn't meet again in August due to travel schedules, but that doesn't mean we won't stop trying to collaborate with them. And we already have, I believe, we might have some support from, is it another community board on?
No, I think one of the things, you know, we're really just getting started on this. I think the other part of this is, you know, we're interested in issues of affordability or whatever the themes and variations of them are. Our community board represents a rather upscale community.
Mhm.
And so although we may have really, our hearts are in a place of wanting to open that up. What we have available, the places for development are limited. We certainly want to increase our own sophistication, knowledge of all of the pitfalls of what we don't have.
Mhm.
But, I think one of the issues is in order to have a voice in this discussion of affordability, which may change dramatically, of course, with the change in administration, we reached out to get beyond ourselves, right? And to communities, much more diverse communities than ours are, so that we can really, you know, both understand what the issues are and be able to work in a larger, in a larger situation than we have right now. So I think that was, that's been the sort of direction of why we just said, okay, we really need to, first of all, it's an enormous amount to learn from, other communities that are working in housing. But also there's powers in numbers, and so that would give us a different kind of voice. So that's where this got to. Did you all see our obsessive list of,
No, Brian, if you don't mind sharing that,
Yeah.
I sent it to Brian before the meeting.
it's an obsessive list, but it was a sort of beginning of, you know, what, it's not a beginning, it's a list of the kinds of issues in affordability, you know, the incredible range of what there is to deal with. All of them dealing with the notion of what we mean by affordable, what is available, what really can be developed further. And then it gets, once we can establish it, what in that rather complicated list would we want to pick out and move ahead with.
Yeah.
So, but the first was just trying to understand what we had to, you know, what our base was that we wanted to consider.
Yeah.
So,
And so I guess, Liz, to answer your question, this was to understand different kinds of affordability, to work on this collaboratively, and I think with the goal as a committee to make better informed decisions going forward. So there's no deadline to get this done. It's something that I anticipate we'll be working on for quite some time.
Okay.
But after this meeting, we can share the Google Doc with the new members of the committee, so everyone can have access to it. And contribute as we see appropriate, because with some of this stuff, it's really hard to find data, right? There's a lot of publicly available data out there, but we don't really know about things like SROs. That's kind of more of a niche housing area that isn't really as publicly accessible. Yes,
You make me think of something, what you just said really resonates in the sense that you even were surprised when I said until such time that we had a settlement with my owner, he had never filed with rents with DHCR, and you were surprised. Again, this is a de facto de jure schism that I would like to see us, it seems so obvious, but passing a resolution or debating it where we actually mandate such things. Things that are like nice to have should be demanded. So that when you actually try and figure out what was the prior tenant paying,
Sure.
and oh, look,
Sure.
you know, part of the whole thing is there are so many tenants in New York City who are unaware that they're in a stabilized building or unit. So if we could bring some sort of rigor in a city where weirdly there are some blind spots.
Yeah, and I think back to our point about things we'd like to talk about, that sounds like a great conversation to have with an elected or with one of their representatives.
Absolutely.
Especially since this is more of a long-term project, that I think is something that would be great to have a conversation with that. Great. Any other topics, any other points?
I would just, I know you've done some work, I believe, as a volunteer with the homelessness community, I think.
In what
No? I
capacity?
thought you did some volunteer work. I think that should be explicitly stood up. I mean, I have a couple of friends, a friend of mine started Street Lives, and that's peer to peer, even thinking about like, as you were saying about what could we do, not just the electeds, but what could we do? What are some best practices that either we take off the shelf or that we hear what people need? Like my friend Josh, who started another thing, would always say he would carry a duffel of socks and got us all into the habit of that's the number one thing that people need on a daily basis. So little things.
Yeah, great. That's a great point. Thanks, Jerry. Okay, great. Any other topics? No? So, move on. Agenda item number 3, Chair's report. So as I mentioned at the full board meeting on Wednesday last week, we applied for a planning fellow. And in the application for this planning fellow, we asked that they do some research into senior housing and affordable senior housing, and to find some deficiencies and perhaps ways in which we as a community board can better support senior-specific affordable housing going forward. So the application was due, I believe, 2 weeks ago, Brian? And do you know when we anticipate hearing back from?
I think it should be later this month.
Okay, great. Great, so hopefully we will be able to get this fellow who will be able to do some really great work. And then if we do get this fellow, they will present their findings to this committee.
I'm just gonna pick up what you said about the
Sure.
senior affordable housing. That is very, never mind, but can we get all, just all learn?
Sure.
But, so one of the ways I can then rethink this or whatever we're trying to do is, do we want to funnel down as one issue for the, and gather the, rather than do it this way, we're doing it this way. It's just. Well, if we said, well, we're really gonna do we wanna go into the notion of affordability and take a look at senior housing?
Mhm.
And that we would become knowledgeable in that, and in the process of doing that, there's gonna be a lot of information from a lot of different directions. That we would be acquiring. It's just a thought in terms of the nature of the.
Well, this would be the planning fellows, I guess,
Yeah.
their project. So if we get this planning fellow, we can definitely have that conversation with them and kind of see what their interest is with this issue and with this topic, and work from there. But in our application, it was very much open-ended, right? It was a very high level. This is the topic that we'd like this planning fellow to explore. And then I think if we get this planning fellow, we can work with them to kind of refine their study area and go from there. But I don't think that if we do get this planning fellow, it shouldn't impede on any of the other work that we're trying to do. But that's awesome. Okay, great. So moving along to the last agenda item, old new business. The budget committee is meeting on September 30th. Back in the spring, we discussed a lot of housing related budget items. And I think we left those conversations in the spring feeling pretty good about where we are. For the new members of the committee, or for those who might want a refresher over the long summer, I encourage you to attend the committee meeting on the 30th. Feel free to apply or whatnot. However, as a full board, we have to vote on these budget requests, Brian, is that right? And so we will vote at the October full board meeting, which is October 8th. So if you can't attend on the 30th, or if you'd like to mention something for the full board, that is the forum to do so. And that is it for old or new business. Do other members of the committee have business they'd like to bring up? Oh, and Brian is sharing with, if you can also just share this with the new members and the returning members as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
And our budget requests are accessible via the quick links at the top of the page on the website. Just budget requests right there. That opens up your table.
Perfect.
Yeah, you can even
And you
filter
can
by
see where it's
committee.
ranked, you can see the description.
Yeah.
And this would be for fiscal year 27, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
Oh, I guess because we're in fiscal year 26 right now.
We are, yeah.
Okay.
The end of the
July 1st is the
Right.
beginning of the new fiscal year. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Anything else? No, all right. So with that, There are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting.
Second
Seconded. Seeing no objections, the meeting is adjourned at 7:21 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.